your tenure be marked by remarkable achievements and leave a lasting legacy of success. Bayethe, wena waphakathi.
Sifiso sahulumende welive laKangwane ukuthi lonke eLeswati liphile impilo lenhle nalenethekile. Kuphumelelisa ke lesifiso uhulumende waseSwatini wabata imali esikhwameni se-Regional Development Fund RDF micro project kanye naleto letikhishwa matiko lahlukene. Kuleti khwama ke uhulumende usukumise imisebenzi yetintfutfuko netinhlalakahle kusuka emimangweni nasemiphakathini lapho kuhleti khona eMaswati. Timali ke kuleti khwama nguletingabuyiselwa emuva kanti ke tabelwa tonke tinkhundla velonke. Bukela luhlelo sive siyathutfuka utibonele imisebenzi yentfutfuko nenhlalakahle leseyigucule tinkhulungwane netinkhulungwane teMaswati. Luhlelo ke lungena njalo ngelesine naseyigabence insimbi yesikhombisa kusihlwa luphindwe ngalesihlanu ngensimbi yelishumi ekseni nangemgcibelo ngensimbi yesine ntsambama. Sive siyathutfuka.
A very good morning. Today is a Wednesday, the midweek of this week. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. Yet again, we will have a great show this Wednesday morning. We want to shine focus on some of the international affairs that are going on around the world. What you can expect today is the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs has said that all but one of the hospitals in Gaza City and northern Gaza are reportedly out of service as of yesterday, and that is due to the lack of power, medical items, oxygen, food and water, compounded by the bombardments and fighting in their vicinities of those health centers. Al-Ali Hospital in Gaza City, which is currently accommodating over 500 patients, is the sole medical facility able to receive patients amid increasing shortages as well as challenges. Hospitals and medical personnel are specifically protected under international humanitarian law, and all parties to the conflict must ensure their protection, as well as, just protecting that they do not be the object of combat. Any military operation around or within hospitals must take steps to spare and protect the patients, medical staff, and other civilians. That's a gut-wrenching one that is currently happening in Gaza. We want to look at that on the show, but we also want to come back in Africa and look at Sudan, where the United Nations is currently verifying credible reports of large-scale violence directed towards members of the Masalit community in Darfur, particularly in El Geneina. Those reports say that this violence was allegedly committed by Arab militia groups between 4 and 6 November with the possible complicity of the Rapid Support Forces, one of the combatants in the current conflict in Sudan. The reported abuses included targeted killing of Masalit men and women, inhumane and degrading treatment, and forced expulsion of Masalit communities who had previously sought safety within the Adamata neighborhood of Al Janina and surrounding areas. There are reports that members of Masalit militants or militias have also targeted some members of the Arab community in El Janina. These developments sadly indicate an escalation of inter-ethnic tensions and intercommunal conflicts in the Sudan. The United Nations therefore urges all parties to conflict to applaud and uphold the respect their obligations under international humanitarian law and to fulfill their duty of protecting all civilians in the areas under their control. Lebanon, in a meeting held with Lebanese Speaker Nabih Berri and caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati in Beirut, UNIFIL's head of mission, Lieutenant General Haroldo Lazzaro, expressed their deep concern about the situation in the south and the potential for wider and more intensive hostilities. He also underscored that UNIFIL's priorities right now are to prevent escalation and safeguard civilians' lives. The meeting comes ahead of the Security Council's consultations on Security Council Resolution 1701, which is set for the 22nd of November. Now, the force commander said that the resolution is being challenged at the moment, but its principle of security, stability, and for a long-term solution remain valid. We just want to, have a spectacle on these interrelations that are happening on these three states. But we also want to come back home and recap the swearing in of our 19 cabinet ministers who were sworn in on Tuesday. We have learned that 5 of them are relatively new in politics, while others have been serving government as civil servants, others have been in the private sector, and others have worked outside of the country. Those who have been serving government include Minister of Tourism and Environmental Affairs, Jane Simelane, who has spent most of her working years at the Deputy Prime Minister's office. We also saw some returning cabinet ministers there. We will see the recap of their swearing in that happened yesterday in full detail when they were being sworn in by Mashampu Khumalo, Mngano Makhosi Sifiso Khumalo. For now, we also want to look at our leading headlines this morning in the Times of Eswatini. My name is Fiso Khumalo. Good morning yet again. All right, let's start with the front page of the Times of Eswatini. Reactions to cabinet appointments. King has been hailed for omitting 10 elected senators. This is after allegations of bribery marred Senate elections. Some say great precedent has been set. There's also a call for probe to be concluded as public office requires people with unquestionable integrity. The full story is found on page 2 of the Times of Eswatini. Another story that's making headline: Law Society declares confidence in Prince Simelane. Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs Prince Simelane takes the oath of office lapha kuletithombe letimbili letilapha, while his wife Precious looks on during the swearing in of ministers, which was held at the cabinet offices yesterday. On the right-hand side, there's the Deputy Prime Minister Kusile being led by Attorney General Sifiso Nkosini Khumalo as she takes the oath of office. Now, the Law Society of Eswatini has declared its confidence in the new Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs that he will indeed fix the problem faced by the judiciary. On another one, head teacher kidnapped and has been found dead, and that is very, very sad. On another story, height fails 21 female aspiring firefighters. Let's look at the sport headlines of the Times of Eswatini this Wednesday morning. 2 days before FIFA World Cup qualifiers, Figa Mthokozisi blow for Sihlangu. The South African-based Figueiredo injured while Seabirds star withdraws from camp. On another one, divert Sihlangu budget. This has been urged by the new Minister for Sports and Recreational Affairs. The sports associations in Eswatini have several issues they want the new Sports, Culture and Youth Affairs Minister Bongani Nzima to address. On another one, opening of Comrades entries in 1 week. This one speaks to the Comrades Marathon Association, which has announced that entries for the 2024 Comrades Marathon will open in a week's time. The entry period officially opens at 10 a.m. on Tuesday. On the international front, Williams' message to Foster is found on page 44 of the Times of Eswatini this morning. Kwalomuhle ake sibahlole market sibuke indzaba lethambe embili tesiswati talapha ekhaya elongeni layitolo.
Umsakato wetithombe iEswatini TV utibophelele kuhlonipha nekulandzela umgomo wetekusakata loweluswe libandla letekuchumana eveni.
Ngephansi kwalomgomo sitimisele kusakata tindzaba letenteka ngaleso sikhatsi tindzaba letide magama laqosheme letitsembekile letitsinza tonke tinhlangothi naletisebaleni
kusukela kutepolitiki, tetemphilo, tekulima, tetinkantolo netemhlaba wonke jikelele siniletsela tindzaba njengoba tinjalo ngaleso sikhatsi letenteka ngaso.
Kanzi kulomsakato siphindze sikulethele lonke luhlobo lwetemidlalo kusuka emidlalweni welibhola letinyawo kuye emidlalweni ledlalelwa ematafuleni kanye naleto letiqhamuka ngaphandle kwakuleli.
Leti tindzaba loutiletselwa ngumsakato wetithombe iEswatini TV.
Tindvuna tembuso setitsetse sifungo sato sekungena ehhovisi. Tindvuna tembuso letfungile tilishumi kanzi ke yinye indvuna ibikwe kutsi ayikho lapha eveni.
Ngalesibili ekuseni tindvuna tembuso tematiko lehlukene ahulumende tihlangene eMbabane lapho betiyawutsatsa khona sifungo. Ngamunye tindvuna tisukumile tayawufunga tilandzela emagama engcweti yetemtsetfo Sifiso Khumalo.
Mine Thulisile Dladla.
Mine Thulisile Dladla.
Ngiyafunga.
Ngithi
ngitawe etsembeka. Ngemoya wami wonke. Kusi ngitayisebentela. Ngeliciniso. Nangekwetsembeka. Inkosi Mswati wesithathu. Nalaba obusa emva kwayo. Kulesikhundla sekuba liphini landvunankulu. Inkosi ngiside.
Mine Polile Shakantu.
Ngiyafunga. Ngithi
ngitawe etsembeka.
I, Neil Rakenberg,
do swear
that
I will well and truly serve the King Mswati III.
That I will well and truly serve King Mswati III.
Mine Sitsinzi Sembutho Simelane.
Ngiyafunga. Ngithi ngitawe etsembeka. Ngemoya wami wonke.
Tindvuna letinye tibonakele titsatsa sifungo tiphekeletelwa bomake nabobabe bakabo. Tindvuna tibheke kutsi tiye emakhosini elive khona namuhla tiyawutfola sibusiso. Indvuna yetekwatisa tekuchumana netebuciko Savana Maziya ayikabi khona kutawufunga njengobe ayikho lapha eveni noko itawufungiswa nayibuya. Tindzabeni teSwatini TV kubika Themkosi Mavimbela navuma Inkosi Nzinisa eMbabane.
Liphini landvunankhulu Thuli Dladla litsi lenye tindzaba letinkhulu letayisebenta etiko lakhe indzaba yekuhlukubetana lebonakala yandza eveni nale khalisa sive sibayeni. Dladla utsi kude sikhatsi sekuhlala emahhovisi kodvwa kufanele kuphunywe kuyawusitwa eMaswati. Dladla ukushitwa loku macedza kufunga khulumisana netinsatseli talomsakato naletinye tindvuna nato ke tikuvetile letakusebenta tisangena ehhovisi.
Kakhulu inkosi lekucelile eMaswatini kwekhute indzaba ye-gender based violence. Cabanga ukuthi ngiyoye kucala vele lesitayi prioritizer. Fortunately akhona ama-study la shoko lokuthi nama underlying causes ale gender. So we're not going to reinvent the wheel. Instead sitawuhlala na PS nelibandla leli relevant sukubuke lokho bese ke sibite ama stakeholders sikhona ukuthi sibonisane sithi recap lokuthi yini mbambamba.
Sitawuvele sicale sigijime ngoba sichubeka nemsebenzi lebese sivele siwenta etiko. Lokumcoka ukuthi kunema pipeline projects lamanyenti le bekakhona ku recovery plan ye COVID nama project lamaningi la bekavela khona ku strategic roadmap lesiwasebentako. Lama projects onke atawudala lemisebenzi lebese kusithembisa sive ukuthi itawuba khona. Ngabekisa nje ukuthi masinyane sidabe sesivula ifactory eGamula lapho khona itawucasha abantu laba-1000.
Awu umuntu uyethemba ukuthi utawugijima nalo sekushintshe kudla esitsheni nje. Ngimi lo abefuna impendulo kepha nyalo sethi itawufunwa kimi but ngiyathemba ukuthi ngekubambisana na PS nalo lonke litiko impendulo sitawubuya nato.
Into etingudahlone kabili. Ngokucala ngile political party yaleli tiko lokuthi ngilendlela yethu yokuphathwa lekufuna ukuthi siqinise kakhulu kuyo la ekutheni siyifundzise eMaswatini ingene eMaswatini uhlala ngishunyelwa njalo lokuthi yinhle ngani yini buhle bale system yethu ngoba vele emhlabeni sekonakele ukuthi system lenekuthula ngoba lobukhosi bena sibe nekuthula behluka lapho nje le system kunama systems bese sephindze futhi kubuya ngalanga ku administration ne service delivery la service delivery nakhona lapho khona inkundla encenye tingakenti kahle khona itoro nakusanda la ekutheni nentuthuko yile kubantu nama service ayile kubantu ngicabanga ukuthi ingwenyama yemhlaba ikube kwacaca lo ukuthi le decentralization sale vele iyale kubantu.
Mengameli wendlu yetimphunga Lindiwe Dlamini sewubonge ingwenyama ngekubulalandvu nangikhulu lathi usesenematubane kanye-ke nokuthi nelibandla letindvuna tembuso lelikhaliphile. Dlamini ukubonge nokuthi ingwenyama imeme tinhlangano letahlukene letifaka ekhatsi UNDP kutsi tibe ingcenye yesibaya njengobe athi letinhlangano titihlobo sibili telive leSwatini. Dlamini ukushito lokhu ngesikhatsi iPhalamende ivalelisa lobekabuke inhlangano yakamhlabuhlangene yetentfutfuko lapha eSwatini Rose Sebatindira ngalesibili.
Mengameli wendlu yetimphunga Lindiwe Dlamini uthi noma lobekamelele lihhovisi lamhlabuhlangene letentuthuko Rose Sebatindira sekalishiya leSwatini imisebenzi yakhe itawusala ngemuva ibe sikhumbuto sekubambisana kwakhe nelakangwane.
Sitibongeleke ukuthi sibe nabo baka UNDP sisasenda likhetho babe nathi esilive bamba kunye nathi phindze nasesibayeni sababona lapho khona live belihlangene khona sitokwenda lesingibona kweyincubetho singemaswati kusijabulisile ke sibabe ingcenye yethu babone ukuthi thina singemaswati sikwenda kanjena asikwendi ngendlela lehlukile basisekele kona lokho ngoba lodakwa tosisekela akabude thine ukuthi sisebenta kanjani sifuna kubanjiswa kuphi ukuze sitokhona kusebenta kahle.
Sebatindira uthi uyakholelwa ekutheni kuhamba kwakhe akusho kugcina kwekusebenzisana kwelihhovisi labeka kulo kanye nelive leSwatini.
That space that was created for us to share the best practices that we have from elsewhere, but also to appreciate Eswatini's unique governance system and how best we can support you in that process. And so that's another space that I strongly believe that allowed us to share ideas as we.
Emisebenzini leminengi labambisene nayo neleSwatini Sebatindira ubongwe ngeluhlelo lwekusita abantu labasha labacedze kufundzela ukuthi bangene emisebenzini tinyanga letisitfupha. Lolu hlelo luvetwe njengalenye indlela yekusita ekulweni nekweswelakala kwemisebenzi kanye nekuvula insha ingcondvo. Ndzabeni Eswatini TV kubika Themkosi Mavimbela nginasimuva Shongwe ePhalamende.
Umfundisi welibandla leMbabane Alliance Johannes Mazibuko loshumayele emsebentini wekufungiswa kwetindvuna tembuso uthi lakuleli ngeke lukhone kufinyelela ekubeni live lelithuthukile i-first world status uma kutawuba kukamachancha. Ngakho-ke uhulumende kumele abe nguloyo losebenta ngekutikhandla. Umbhishaphu walelibandla le-God at Work Zakaria Mthethwa ukhulekele ukuthi lelibandla letindvuna tembuso libe nenhlakanipho lisesehhovisi.
Ishumayele mfundisi Johannes Mazibuko igcile kakhulu ekusebenteni kwahulumende lokunemtselo emihle kanti umbhishaphu Zakaria Mthethwa uthandazele ukuthi letindvuna tembuso uthi sebente ngenhlakanipho yasimakatse.
Bomake nabobaba betindvuna tembuso Siyaqala kubona a different spirit kuma ministries. Siyaqala kubona umehluko. Mhlambe nemithetho kuyahamba ishintshe irevise lala phakona lomnyaka udula khona ukwadi kumfaka liswati ngendlela lefanele atuyekela ngoba labanye bathi oh wena fikile nje 5 years after 5 years uyahamba. No, excellency pleases God and the people.
Wena moya weqiniso moya lengehluleki litiko ngalinye siyathandaza nika indvuna ngayinye uNkulunkulu wezulu umnika inhlakanipho wayinika inkosi yasemva Solomoni wathi wamnika inhlakanipho Nkosi wakhona ukuthi alibambe live leka Israel ngehlonipho lelihle walihola baba iwisdom Nkosi litiko intondo tabo imicabango yabo ibe inspired by the power of the Holy Ghost. I pray, Lord, today, that your holy hand may be upon them, one by one, worship. Bangete basanganiswa, tinkulumo deliver, ngegama likaJesu.
Mapala nemahofisini tindvuna tembuso Victor Nxumalo nanaye ugcizelele kusebenteni kwetindvuna tembuso ngetikhandla waze wathi ngemuva kwale nshumayelo yetingceko unelethemba ukuthi lo moya wokusebenta ngekutikhandla utawela nakumabhalane bematiko lahlukahlukene etindzabeni kubika Fortune Dlangamandla nginavuma inkosi inzinisa sisembabani.
Umphathi wemasotsha mashikilisane Fakutse uthi noma sifo se-AIDS lingasababulali bantfu ngesizathu setinhlelo livele litibekile solo-ke kubalulekile ukuthi tindlela tekuvikela i-HIV tisebenziswe ngalokubhekekile. Fakutse uthi isibhedlela sembutfo wetekuvikela sinetinhlelo leticinile tekuvikela nekwelapha tifo letahlukahlukene letifaka ekhatsi imdlavuza nekweluleka ngengcondvo. Fakutse bekakhuluma ngesikhatsi lo mbutfo ugubha lusuku lwebantfu labanesifo se-AIDS i-World AIDS Day lobanjelwe kaZombotse.
Lo msebenzi loqale ngekubuka lusito loluniketwa ngulombutfo ngalokuphelele kanti-ke ubanjwe ngephansi kwesiqubulo lesithi imimango kufanele ukuthi ibe nenzima leyidlalako kulwa ne-AIDS. Umphathi wembutfo yetekuvikela mashikilisane Fakutse uthi-ke sibhedlela salombutfo sitimisele ukuthi sinikede emaswati lusito lwetemphilo loluphelele.
Bekusifo lesile bese sihlupha kakhulu nathi lamasotsha lisolo baqala lo msebenzi sesikhonile ukuthi silive sirishe le goal lebeyikhona le 95 so ke kuyasitha emasotsheni ekuthenini kufa ngalesifo ngoba siyafundziswa siyaniketwa ukuthi sipreventa njani ema-condom nalokwa asendiyona kuphela i-HIV and AIDS lesibhedlela sesendlulele kubo cancer.
Lomelele inhlangano iPEPFAR Dr. Tyrone Lipindo uthi-ke lo mbutfo udlala indima lebonakalako ngetinhlelo tekulwa ne-AIDS.
The role of the community is to ensure that community participation is felt in what services are required, and importantly to contribute to the quality of care that is provided. To facilitate that, minutes are kept and there are suggestion boxes available for confidential feedback and suggestions that people might not feel free to openly express.
Mphikeleli Dlamini umphathi wetinhlelo kaNature uthi-ke le nhlangano itimisele kubambisana netibhedlela kanye nematiko lahlukene ekuthenini kuliwe nesifo se-HIV. Tindzabeni kubika Sondomlangeni kunasimuva Shongwe kaZombotse.
Litiko letekulima ngekubambisana nelitiko letemphilo livakashele eBasrank eMbabane lapho beliyawukhutsata khona bantfu ukuthi badle kudla kwemdzabu lokunemsoco. Ngekusho kwemcondzisi wetekulima Nelson Mavuso uthi sive siyakhutsatwa ukuthi silime tibhidvo temdzabu.
Emaswati libeka sedolobheni eMbabane atfole litfuba lekudla tibhidvo temdzabu aphindze-ke afundziswa kabanti ngekuthi tingaphekwa kanjani ngendlela yokuthi tingalahlekelwa titsawo. Umcondzisi welitiko letemphilo Nelson Mavuso uthi sive sitfoleni tinhlanyelo.
Silitiko la agriculture siphusha iprogram yekukhutsata
kudla kwemtsamo, kudla tibhidvo, sidle ema-fruits kuze sitonciphisa indlela lesikhula ngayo. Sithi silitiko uma sihlanganisile sihlangene singasita sive sethu siphile emalanga lamanengi. Lokunengi kwethu kubangwa kuphila impilo lesedentary, lokuhlala phansi uphume emotweni uhlale ehofisini bese kuba kudla lokungasiko kahle. Sike sitokutsata kudla tibhidvo, kudla ema-fruits at least 5 wemalanga evikini lena 7 days.
Vusi Shabangu welitiko letempilo unikete lesive emasu ekupheka kudla ngaphandle kokuthi kulahlekelwe dithako.
Yonke into loyipheke kakhulu uyayiphakela kakhulu. Yonke into loyipheke kancane ngilota ayiphakela kancane. Wena kusapheka liphalishi ngelibhodo lelikhulu vele utaliphakela libe linengi epledeni lakho ngekuba kunenkwalo leliphalishi epledeni lakho likubeke emathubeni lamanengi ukuthi utawuba netiko letingathathelwana.
Lo mkhankaso ohambisana ngco nemigomo yelitiko letekulima wekukhuthaza emaswati ukuthi adle kudla lokunemaseko lamathathu kude tawuvikela tifo letingathathelwana non-communicable diseases. Dindzabeni kubika Sondo Mlangeni na Fortune Dlangamandla eMbabane.
Luhlangothi lwetimo letiphuthumako emergency preparedness and response lolwatiwa kakhulu ngekuthi ngo977 etiko letempilo lithi kubalekile ukuthi lakuleli litihlole ukuthi lingakhona yini kubhekana nanobe ngisiphi sehlakalo lokungenteka sivele kubuka netindlela letibhaliwe tekulwana letahlakalo kuleli. Lokho kuvetwe ngumduduzilo kodfako wakuleli hlangothi emhlanganweni nebetindzaba lapho khona bekuthulwa ukuthi kuleli viki kutawentiwa simo sehlakalo endzaweni lefihlakele kubona ukuthi tinhlangothi letilwa netehlakalo tikulungele yini vele kubhekana nato.
Kuphetfwa kwemkhuhlane i-COVID-19 ngeminyaka ka-2019 kwanika insayethi inhlangothi temave letilwa nekuphethuka kwetehlakalo emave emhlaba lamanyenti aba nebulukhuni kulwa nesimo lesavela kungakagadzeki. Ulungiselela tehlakalo letingahle tivele litiko letempilo luhlangothi letimo letiphutfumako lutawenta simo sesahlakalo lesitohlola ulungela kwamabandla lahlukahlukene kulwa netehlakalo. Welibandla letimo letiphutfumako umduduzi lokotfaka uchaza kabanti.
Nale mibhalo yethu leminingi leseyisibekile lesesemgceni angeke uyicabange lekhansona lesehlakalo kufuna ukuthi kube yindlu leseyilangqondweni yakho senda kanjalo nekuthi kutasita lokho ukuthi vele akhona nemagap kule mibhalo yethu nalama procedures ethu nangabe akhona start nje nasesicedzile kwenda konke lokho ngoba letinini tethu lichamuka ngaphandle ngito letibothishela noma ke letosibuka ukuthi sende kona yini. That's nasebophelile ke bese sesihlala nathi phansi sesiyasilungisa la sende kahle khona ke sesithola bothik la singakeni kahle khona siphinde sibuyela ku drawing board siqalela phansi siphinde futhi siyalungisa. Sendele nje ukuthi live ekugcineni kwabo bonke libe ngilelo lelilungele ngokuthi noma ngaqhamuka siphi sehlakalo lesithinza tempilo ukuhamba ukuthi ke hulumende kule hlangothi letempilo lime kahle ukuthi litawukhona kugejima.
Umfundisi wetempilo etiko letempilo Sidumo Likhele uthi lokuhlolwa kwekulungela kwetehlakalo ngemabandla lahlukahlukene kungashinge futhi kusite noma simo lesihlongotako sekuthi kungenteka kube nesomiso sihlasela kuleli. Etindzabeni kubika Fortune Dlangamandla ngisembabane.
Umsunguli wenhlangano yabantu labanesifo sashukela Kusile Mavuso uthi kutihlola sifo sashukela masinyane kungavikela timo letingakacapheleki lokungabese kuba ngatinkinga. Mavuso uthi kuba khona kwemuthi insulin etibhedlela nako kuyindlela lengavikela ukuthi lesifo singachubeki embili ngendlela lengalawuleki.
Sifo sashukela sifo mhlabhlangene lasigagule ukuthi sifo lesibulalako kepha lesinganakeki phecelezi silent killer lokwenda ukuthi lusuku lwamhla ka14 kulenyanga kube lusuku lokukhumbuta abantu ngekuvikela lesifo. Umsunguli wenhlangano yabantu labaphila nesifo sashukela kuleli Kusile Mavuso uthi kuba bucayi kwalesifo kubangwa ukuthi bantu bangakhoni kutinakekela kahle.
Ithi letimu nekhutsata balingani bami lesiphila nalabo shukela kuthi kumcoka kuwathatha imithi lefanele ngendlela lefanele ukuze zivikele kungena kuma complications nekuthi sibakhuthate futhi nelwati lo munye uhlele ekhaya katati uthi unaso lesifo futhi uyadileya noma angeva sikhuluma ngema-symptoms kuya esibhedlela kulisena le mithi uyesaba ukuthi sindawudiagnoswa bese kuba njani empilweni. Ngiyacela bangesabi, ungibabe ungimake ungimvala, ngicela uma kubona leti mpawu lesikhuluma ngato ngemalanga phuthumela emtholampilo.
Siqubulo sekugubha lolusuku sithi kufanele bantfu labanalesifo bakhone kutfola lusito lwetempilo. Inhlangano yakamhlaba yetempilo ithi bang 422 million bantfu labanalesifo emhlabeni, lokwenta kutsi ke labangetulu kwa 96 million balapha eAfrika, lokuveta sidzingo sekufundzisa njalo ngalesifo. Tindzabeni kubika Sondomlangeni Ignasimuva Shongwe kaManzini.
Solo liyachubeka nekutfutfuka ngesivinini lesetulu lidolobha laseBuhleni. Leli dolobha selisesigabeni lapho kwakhiwa khona titalati letatiwa-ke ngema-streets ekhatsi edolobheni. Mapalane welibhodi lelibuke kutfutfukiswa kwaleli dolobha Gordon Mbuli ukhutelwandle engwenyameni iNkosi Mswati wesithathu ngekwethemba emaswati ekutheni angatitfutfukisela wona leli dolobha.
Palane webhodi lebuke lidolobha laseBuhleni Gordon Mbuli uthi lokubajabulisako ngekuthuthuka kwaBuhleni kwakuthi uthuthukiswa bozamabhizinisi labamaswati.
Singabulala amabhodlela kakhulu kuye ingonyama inkosi yomhlaba lenguyena asithuma ukuthi sithuthukise le dolobha laseBuhleni. Idolobha lesoloko ngisho ukuthi idolobha lokuqala lemaswati nalakhiwa ngamaswati. Konke lokubalako kwamaswati siyabonga ukuthi ke njoba ubonile la umgwaqo njoba sasishito na kugcina kwethu na kusuka unyaka sithi kunenkampani lesi sesiyibukile ukuthi sinikele umsebenzi isebenze i-roots construction ukuthi ngiyoke letha ayiqale sale kubonakala phela ukuthi usedolobheni.
Amabhizinisi labancane baseBuhleni bathi bayathokota ngendlela leli dolobha lithuthuka ngayo.
Siyajabula kakhulu mthombeni ukuthi indlela lekwenteka ngayo la Buhleni siyamangala nathi azange sesibone. Eqinisweni lawo konke nje siyabona njengoba ubekisa imigwaqo nje. La Buhleni sekutaba sedolobheni. Sesitawathi nesina sedolobheni nawo sanyathela umhlaba unyathela litiye la toti. Siyajabula nje kakhulu konke ne-police station lekhona eveni lengimabukwase ngingasho ukuthi ngimabukwase.
Bonga uNkulunkulu ngedolobha lethu lihle kakhulu siyathuthuka asisafanani nayitolo la bekuhamba ibhasi yinye beside nemigwaco kahle sesikhala nje ngalokunengi lokuncane kepha lokuningi lesesinako. Ngiyabonga nje enzaweni yethu ukukhombisa emathuba lamanenge emsebenzi thina somabhizinisi labancane nemakethe nje Buhleni uma kungathiwa kuyathuthuka siyithole nanathi sibe ngilabatawu sitakala.
Somabhizinisi labancane nje siyacela nje ukuthi bamane bazame ngetimakethe sithi noma ngabe liyana sikhona ukuthi sithe emsebenzini sitokhona ukuthi siphandle bantwana kube kuhle.
Njengoba sekuceliwe kwakhiwa kwemigwaco ema-streets nekuhleliswa kwaleli dolobha lokuthi awulandzela kufakwa kwagesi kanye nekufakwa kwemanti edolobheni kuthi eBuhleni abe lidolobha ngalokuphelele. Etindzabeni Eswatini TV ngingibonga Simagagule eBuhleni.
Inhlangano yetekutsengiselana emave laseMpumalanga neNingizimu Afrika i-Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa i-COMESA ithi kuhlanganiswa kweminotfo yaletifundza kuluhlelo lelichubekako lelitosusa tonkhe tincabekelwano tekutsengiselana emaveni kanye nasetifundzeni. Lenhlangano ithi kumcokwane kwekuthi kususwe tonkhe tincabekelwano letikhona ekuhambiseni ke imphahla kute imphahla itohamba ngekushelela. Lenhlangano ingeta ukuthi inzuzo ekuthengiselana kubantfu nasemabhizinisini ifaka ekhatsi kusebentela ebaleni lesoma bahlanyeli timali labachamuka ngephandle lokusita ekwakheni ematfuba emsebenzi. Lenhlangano ithi live lase-Ethiopia kanye nelase-Djibouti sekacedzile ngemalungiselelo ekuba yingcenye yalenhlangano yakaCOMESA. Lombiko ukhishwe lisekela lasihlalo walenhlangano Ambassador Dr. Mohammed Khada ngemuva kwemhlangano welishumi nesikhombisa welibandla lelibuke ekucinisekisa ukuthi timphahla letiletha imithelo emaveni tihamba kahle. Umhlangano ubanjwe kusuka ngeMsombuluko kuya ngaleSibili. Kutemidlalo kulandzela kubekwa kwemhlonishwa wasenkhundleni yasesandleni Bongani Nzima njengendvuna yetemidlalo tinhlangano letahlukahlukene letibuka kusebenta kwetemidlalo lapha eveni lekuyi Eswatini Sports and Recreation Council kanye ne-Eswatini Football Association tekhutelwandle tabunga kuyo ingwenyama ekutfoleni umuntfu lotawuhambisa embili tindzaba letifaka ekhatsi i-sports bill kanye nekutfola inkhundla lensha yekudlalisa temidlalo.
Sikhutelo nalibayethu sithi bayethu wena waphakathi sports fraternity selive leMaswati siyade ukuthi kakhulu i-sports bill nje lesematheni bantu i-sports bill ke sonke vele sikhathe sona ngemehlo labofu siyathemba ababenzima utawuphusha aphushe achubeke la kugcine khona babebulunga so i-sports bill kakhulu nje ngiso lesingathi issue ama-associations ethu they are very much aware ukuthi sekuphile le level yaso yekusebenza jabula kakhulu ke futhi nale experience lanayo babenzima usuke emaveni njengabo Geneva uyile nemaveni njengabo Sudan unayo le sports background so ngemave lawo lesingathi especially eGeneva nje live li well developed lesingacishe sisho seliku first world so i-experience yakhe we have hope and sinalo lithemba vele ukuthi utasisita si-Ministry of Sports
egameni endlunkulu yebhola nemndeni wonke webhola uphelele kungaba kuthatha leli thuba leli kwecala Fabrice singakhuta lona lwandle sithi bayethe wona waphakathi lapha ye-facility njengoba usho indzaba mlonyeni stadium sikhuluma nje kuleli likhethelo liyadlala nelikhethelo laseLibya liyadlalela ngaphandle lekungaba vele kungaba indvo lenhle lokuthi imidlalo lenjengale igcine idlalile lapha ekhaya kude nemaswati onke alithole lithuba lokuyobukela likhethelo lelive lidlala sihlangu semnikati njengoba likhethelo leli lisuke limele wona emaswati siyethemba lokuthi titaba khona tindlela ekuthenini kugcine kwendekile lokho sigcine sinaso noma sikhona leso stadium leso lesitawugcine sibambile lena midlalo lena sengaba nje kwethemba nje kakhulu ukuthi naye minister sangena ehhovisi naye wonke uhulumende indzaba vele leseyikhulunyiswa cishe live lonke siyethemba lokuthi kutawugcine ibe khona impumelelo sigcine nathi sesikhona kubambela imidlalo lenjena lapha ekhaya.
Sithanda ke kumbongela yena minister lomusha siphindze sijabule ke nalokuthi i-experience lanayo iyakhombisa lokuthi passion yakhe isetindzabeni tebantu labasha ikakhulu kanye nato temidlalo siyathemba ke ukuthi kunyendi ke lesitokhona ukuthi sikachieve naye minister wethu lomusha kudo etindzabeni temidlalo netindzaba nje tawo ema-Olympics.
Ngaleyo ndzaba siyatiphetsa teswati sibahlola emakethe sitawubuya sichubeka nelihlelo.
Ngabukela ke washa umkhukhu every Sunday at 3 p.m.
It's 39 minutes after 6. We'll take this moment to look at Gaza, Sudan, Lebanon, and other topics, particularly going through conflict at this particular time. We will listen to a briefing by Stephanie Jurajik, spokesperson for the Secretary General of the United Nations.
All right, good afternoon. I will start off with a statement on the situation in Gaza. The Secretary General is deeply disturbed by the horrible situation and the dramatic loss of life in several hospitals in Gaza. In the name of humanity, the Secretary General calls for an immediate ceasefire. And just to give you a bit more granular information that we've been receiving from the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs regarding Gaza, they tell us that all but one of the hospitals in Gaza City and northern Gaza are reportedly out of service as of yesterday, and that is due to lack of power, medical items, oxygen, food, and water, compounded by bombardments and fighting in the vicinities of those health centers. Al-Ali Hospital in Gaza City, which currently accommodates over 500 patients, is the sole medical facility able to receive patients amid increasing shortages and challenges. Hospitals and medical personnel are specifically protected under international humanitarian law, and all parties to the conflict must ensure their protection, and they must not be the object of combat. Any military operation around and within hospitals must take steps to spare and protect the patients, medical staff, and other civilians. Moving to the issue of trucks that we've been updating you on, a total of 115 trucks carrying food, medicines, health supplies, bottled water, blankets, tents, and hygiene products crossed from Egypt into Gaza yesterday. This brings the number of trucks that have entered Gaza since the 21st to 1,096. The UN Relief Works Agency warned yesterday that its humanitarian operations, including the distribution of aid entering through Rafah crossing, are expected to halt within the next 48 hours following the total depletion of its fuel reserves. In this context, two primary water distribution contractors working for the agency in the south ceased operations yesterday, leaving 200,000 people without access to potable water. Furthermore, humanitarian organizations are facing severe communications breakdown, which is also linked to the fuel depletion as the cell tower cannot work. Hundreds of thousands of people who are either unwilling or unable to move to the south remain in the north amidst intensified hostilities. They are struggling to secure the struggling to secure the minimum amount of water and food for their survival. The consumption of water from unsafe sources raises serious concerns about dehydration and waterborne diseases. The World Food Program has expressed its concern about the risks of malnutrition and starvation. In a meeting held today in Lebanon with the Lebanese speaker Nabi Berri and the caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati in Beirut, the head of UNIFIL, of the UN peacekeeping force in southern Lebanon, UNIFIL, Lieutenant General Aroldo Lazzaro, expressed his deep concern about the situation in the south and the potential for wider and more intensive hostilities. He underscored that UNIFIL's priorities right now are to prevent the escalation and safeguard of civilian lives. The meeting comes ahead of the Security Council's consultations on Security Council Resolution 1701 that is set for the 22nd of November. The force commander said the resolution is being challenged at the moment, but its principles of security, stability, and for long-term solution remain valid, adding that UNIFIL's impartial role in conveying crucial messages to reduce tensions and prevent dangerous misunderstandings remains critical, aiming to avert any unwarranted escalation. And this morning in Bonn, in Germany, our friends at the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change launched their synthesis report on the nationally determined contributions of countries. In a message, the Secretary General said the report provides evidence that the world is failing to get a grip on the climate crisis and remains massively off track to limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius and avoiding the worst climate catastrophe. Under the current national plan, global greenhouse gases emissions are set to rise 9% by 2030 compared to 2010 levels. However, the science says that emissions must fall by 45% by the end of this decade compared to 2010 levels to meet the global goal of limiting temperature rise to 1.5 degrees. Inch by inch, progress will not do, he said. It is time for a climate ambition supernova in every country, in every city, in every sector. The Secretary General also said that COP28, which starts in a couple of weeks in Dubai, must be the place to urgently close the climate ambition gap. Moving to the situation in Sudan, the UN, situation in Sudan. We are currently verifying credible reports that we've received of large-scale violence directed towards members of the Masalit community in Darfur, particularly in El Geneina. Those reports say that this violence allegedly committed by Arab militia groups between the 4th and the 6th of November with the possible complicity of the Rapid Support Forces, one of the combatants in the current conflict in Sudan. The reported abuses, including targeting killings of Masalit men and women, inhumane and degrading treatment, and forced expulsion of Masalit communities who had been previously sought safety within the Ardamata neighborhood of El Geneina and surrounding areas. There are reports that members of the Masalit militias have also targeted some members of the Arab community in El Geneina. These developments sadly indicate an escalation in interethnic and intercommunal conflicts in Sudan. We urge all parties to the conflict to uphold and respect their obligations under international humanitarian law and to fulfill their duty of protecting all civilians in the areas under their control. This includes the implementation of the Declaration of Commitment to Protect Civilians of Sudan, signed on the 11th of May in Jeddah in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And pertinent to this matter, today the Special Advisor on the Prevention of Genocide, Alice Ndiritu, said it is essential that the world pay attention and responds, and that Sudan must not be a forgotten crisis. Heading south to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the UN peacekeeping mission there, MONUSCO, says it is still concerned about the ongoing clashes between members of the M23 armed group, the Congolese armed forces, and various coalitions of armed groups. Since October, the clashes have been occurring daily in North Kivu's Masisi, Rutshuru, and Nyiragongo territories. Recent clashes have resulted in large-scale internal displacements of people and pose a serious threat to the safety and security of all civilians in the area. The UN peacekeepers have established a standard combat deployment and long-range patrols to ensure a safe corridor for the passage of displaced people. We've also provided medical assistance, water, and supported the delivery of humanitarian assistance near Kichanga base in coordination with our humanitarian agencies. Around 25,000 men, women, and children have taken refuge in and around the UN's Kichanga base since the clashes broke out in the region last month. And the operation that we told you about last week, jointly run by the UN peacekeepers and the authorities in the DRC, is ongoing with the aim of securing the towns of Goma and Sake and to ensure the protection of civilians. Also on the DRC, but in a different area, the humanitarian coordinator for the country, Susanna Takalec, also expressed concern about the deteriorating security and situation and attacks of aid workers in the country's east. Yesterday in Fizi territory in South Kivu, armed individuals attacked a humanitarian convoy, abducted 2 aid workers, and set their vehicles on fire. Fortunately, the aid workers were released. The aid workers were released later in the day unharmed. This is the latest of a series of violent incidents targeting humanitarian personnel and humanitarian assets in that region. Since the beginning of the year, 217 security incidents impacting humanitarians have been reported across the country, and 3 humanitarian colleagues were killed. And some good news for once out of our humanitarian operations in Niger. Our humanitarian colleagues tell us that the national aviation authorities in Niger have told the UN's humanitarian air service that flight restrictions are now lifted for domestic operations and they can resume as of tomorrow. The resumption of domestic UN humanitarian flight services will facilitate the uninterrupted and secure delivery of an average of 2.4 metric tons of cargo monthly. That's mostly essential medical supplies for people in need. Also delivering critical, it also will also ensure critical medical and security evacuations of humanitarian staff. However, we are told that reliable access for fuel for these flights remains a challenge. And in Somalia, just a quick update for you on the flooding situation. The Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says that heavy rains and floods have impacted more than 1.2 million people, displacing 450,000 of them and killing at least 32 people. Our humanitarian colleagues note that the heavy rains expected in southern Somalia this week with the risk of associated flooding. Rain is also expected to impact parts of Somaliland and Galmudug state. We, along with our partners and the authorities, have scaled up assistance, reaching nearly 680,000 people across the country with food, water, sanitation, and cash assistance. UN agencies are also supporting the delivery of boats to help evacuate trapped people to deliver assistance. While needs are escalating, the 2023 humanitarian response plan is only 40% funded. Additional funds are urgently required to scale up and sustain the response. Moving to Europe and to Ukraine, the humanitarian coordinator for Ukraine, Denise Brown, has condemned yesterday's attacks in the southern city of Kherson that reportedly killed and injured dozens of civilians, including a 2-month-old girl who was hospitalized for her injuries. Ukrainian officials said that homes and hospitals and ambulances were reportedly struck, with 2 healthcare workers and 1 patient reported among the injured. WHO has verified more than 1,300 attacks on healthcare in Ukraine since Russia's full-scale invasion of 2022. This accounts for more than half of all attacks against healthcare workers over this period. Our humanitarian colleagues note that attacks in Kherson have also putting aid workers at risk. Last Thursday, 2 NGO workers, workers for Ukrainian NGOs were injured while delivering assistance. Ms. Brown reiterated that attacks on civilians, health workers, and health facilities constitute grave violations of international humanitarian law. And just back here in the Security Council, as part of UN Police Week, the Security Council held a session to discuss strategic priorities of UN police component in peace operations. The head of our Peace Operations Department, Jean-Pierre Lacroix, said that at a time when multilateralism in peacekeeping is facing significant challenges, the gap between peacekeeping mandates and what the mission can, in practice, actually deliver has become increasingly apparent, adding that we are and we will continue to do our utmost to strengthen the effectiveness of UN peacekeeping. Mr. Lacroix told council members that in the current context, UN peacekeeping operations can only achieve what he calls the intermediate goal of peacekeeping, which includes preserving ceasefires, protecting hundreds of thousands of civilians, mediating local conflicts, and strengthening institutions wherever they can. The head of the UN Police Division, as well as police commissioners from peacekeeping missions in the Central African Republic and South Sudan, briefed the council. And lastly, today is World Diabetes Day. The global prevalence of diabetes has nearly doubled since 1980. Diabetes can be treated and its consequences avoided or delayed with diet, physical activity, medication, and regular screening and treatment for complications. Speaking of complications, Edie, I mean that in the nicest way, of course.
Thank you.
And
a couple of follow-ups on what's going on in Gaza. With the 48-hour halt to the unloading and the delivery of aid, the 115 trucks that arrived yesterday, were they actually unloaded? Did they go anywhere, and what's happening today?
Yes, my understanding is that they were offloaded. Today remains very much of a challenge. I was on the phone with some of our colleagues before we came. The situation is still unclear. I mean, we are trying to do our best in very complicated circumstances. So we're trying to get a bit more of an update for you later today about what is going on at the crossing today.
And
but fuel remains a huge challenge for us.
As a follow-up to the Secretary General's appeal for a ceasefire, who has he been talking to? I know that the British Prime Minister and the U.S. President appealed for a halt to any fighting at hospitals. What specifically is the
I
Secretary
mean, he
General
continues
doing?
to speak to a variety of interlocutors, and his colleagues in the field and at headquarters, whether it's Martin Griffiths and Tor, Venezuelan, continue to push our position publicly and privately. I mean, our position has been, one thing it has been is very consistent on this issue. Linda, and then Valeria.
Thank you, Steph. Again, regarding Gaza, I was just wondering if the UN has the capability to determine, in terms of when they're distributing food, who are civilians and who are fighters? And also, related to that, does the UN know, for example, when there are killings, what percentage are civilians, what part are fighters?
We don't have the, I mean, Valeria, please. Sorry. Sorry. The figures of casualties come from the Ministry of Health in Gaza. As we've said, they're not issuing disaggregated figures, so we don't have that. I can tell you that our humanitarian operation is focused on distributing aid to civilians, and millions, hundreds of thousands of people in Gaza, if not more than 1 million, are in need of humanitarian assistance. I mean, the situation is dire. Let me just put it this way. Without fuel, you obviously can't power up generators. You can't have electricity. Without fuel, you can't run desalination plants, which means you can't have clean drinking water. Without clean drinking water, obviously no one can, you put yourself at risk if you drink dirty water. You also can't run bakeries. Without fuel, we can't dispose of solid waste. I mean, there are tons and tons of solid waste that we have to move every day. Without fuel, we can't do that. So this quickly snowballs into a true humanitarian catastrophe in front of our eyes and in front of cameras. Valeria, and then Evelyn.
Thank you, Steph. Do you have any comment on the latest attack from the Israeli Foreign Minister to the Secretary General, saying that he does not deserve to lead the United Nations? What's your comment, if you have one? Thank you.
I don't have a particular comment. The Secretary General continues his work with nerves of steel, calmly, focused, and based on principles, notably the principles of the Charter, international humanitarian law, and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Evelyn, then Maggie.
There was the United Nations daily briefing on Gaza, Lebanon, and Sudan, and other conflicts happening around the world. Of course, receiving some questions from the press, which he answered succinctly. We want to go for a net break and return with our English news.
We at Eswatini Television Authority are committed to observing the Eswatini Communication Commission's Broadcasting Code of Conduct.
Under the code, we are committed to broadcast news that is current, free from hate speech, accurate, balanced, and fair.
From politics to business, health, agriculture, courts, and global news, we bring you the latest updates as they happen, when they happen.
We cover all the sporting codes from the football pitch to the chessboards.
This is Eswatini TV News.
Welcome back. Let's bring focus to our English news for the next 20 minutes. Cabinet ministers have been sworn into office in an exercise that was administered by Attorney General Sifiso Khumalo in Mbabane on Tuesday. Only one minister was not present during the event, as she was reported to be out of the country.
The
cabinet ministers were sworn in at cabinet offices. One by one, they stood next to Attorney General Sifiso Khumalo, who was administering the oath.
Mine Thulisile Dladla
Mine Thulisile Dladla
ngiyafunga
ngiyafunga
ngithi ngitawethembeka
ngithi ngidawethembeka
ngemoya wami wonke
moya wami wonke
kuthi ngitayisebentela
kuthi ngidayisebentela
ngeliqiniso nangekwethembeka Inkosi Mswati wesithathu
Inkosi Mswati wesithathu
nalabo ayobusa emva kwayo
ayobusa emva kwayo
kulesikhundla sekuba liphini landvunankulu
kulesikhundla sekuba liphini landvunankulu
Inkosi ngiside
Inkosi ngiside
Mine Polile Shakantu
ngiyafunga
ngithi
ngitawethembeka
ngidawethembeka
I, Neil Rakenberg,
do swear
that
I will well and truly serve the King Mswati III
I will well and truly serve King Mswati III.
Mine sithinzi sembutho simelane
ngiyafunga
ngithi
ngitawethembeka
ngemoya wami wonke
Most ministers were accompanied by their spouses. Now that they have been sworn in, they are expected to receive a blessing from the Ingwenyama. Meanwhile, Minister of Information, Communication and Technology, Savannah Mazia, was not present during the swearing-in as she is reported to be out of the country. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosi Mavimbela with Vuminkosi Nzinisa. Babane.
Deputy Prime Minister Thuli Dladla says gender-based violence is one of the key issues she is looking to face head-on as she begins her 5-year term. Dladla says this issue was raised during the People's Parliament and continued to be seen affecting Emaswati daily. Dladla has said this during an interview after being sworn into office, where other ministers also shared what they plan to do in the next 5 years.
Kakhulu inkosi lekucelile eMaswatini kwekhute indzaba ye-gender based violence. Cabanga ukuthi ngiyoye kucala vele lesitayi prioritizer la shoko lokuthi nama underlying causes ale gender. So we're not going to reinvent the wheel. Instead, sitawuhlala na PS neli bandla leli relevant sukubuke lokho bese ke sibite ama stakeholders sikhona ukuthi sibonisane sithi recap lokuthi yini mbambamba
sitawuvele sicale sigijime ngoba sichubeka nemsebenzi lebese sivele siwenta etiko lokumcoka ukuthi kunema pipeline projects lamanyenti le bekakhona ku recovery plan ye COVID nama project lamanengi labekavela khona ku strategic roadmap leswasebentako lama projects onke atawudala lemisebenzi lebesokusithembisa sive ukuthi itawuba khona ungabekisa nje ukuthi masinyane sitabe sesivula ifactory eGamula lapho khona itawuqasha abantu labangu-1000
awu umuntu uyethemba ukuthi utawugijima nalo sekushintshe kudla esitsheni nje ngimi lo abefuna impendulo kepha nyalo sethi itawufunwa kimi but ngiyathemba ukuthi ngekubambisana na PS nalo lonke litiko impendulo sitawubuya nato
into engidahlone kabili ngokucala ngile political party yaleli tiko lokuthi ngilendlela yethu yokuphathwa lekufuna ukuthi sicinise kakhulu kuyo la ekutheni siyifundzise eMaswatini ingene eMaswatini uhlala ngishunyelwa njalo lokuthi yinhle ngani yini buhle bale system yethu ngoba vele emhlabeni sekonakele ukuthi isystem benekuthula ngoba lobukhosi bena sibe nekuthula behluka lapho nje le system kunama systems bese sephindze futhi kubuya ngala ngaku administration ne service delivery la service delivery nakhona lapho khona inkundla encenye tingakenti kahle khona itolo nakusanda la ekutheni nentuthuko yele kubantu nama service ayele kubantu ngicabanga ukuthi ingwenyama yemhlaba ikube kwacaca lo ukuthi le decentralization sale vele iyale kubantu.
Senate President Lindiwe Dlamini has thanked His Majesty King Mswati III for appointing a Prime Minister whom she says is energetic and a cabinet that is equal to the task at hand. Dlamini has also thanked Ingwenyama for inviting the United Nations Development Programme to attend Sibaya, as this organization has the country's best interest at heart. Dlamini has said this in Parliament during a farewell function for the outgoing UNDP President, Representative Rose Sebatindira, on Tuesday.
Senate President Lindiwe Dlamini says although the outgoing UNDP resident representative Rose Sebatindira is leaving Eswatini, her work will remain for all to see.
The partnership and cooperation UNDP has had with the Kingdom has grown significantly over the years. UNDP-supported projects in the entire government machinery are invaluable and have contributed to the country's success stories with regards to the implementation of SDGs and good governance. Specific to Parliament, through our partnership between 2018 and 2023, a number of initiatives to improve Parliament work processes have been achieved. Some are still ongoing.
Sebatindira says she believes that her departure does not mark the end of UNDP's contribution to Eswatini's development.
That space that was created for us to share the best practices that we have from elsewhere, but also to appreciate Eswatini's unique governance system and how best we can support you in that process. And so that's another space that I strongly believe that allowed us to share ideas.
During the event, it was said that Sebatindira will be remembered for the recently launched Eswatini Youth Empowerment Program. This program was described as a tool that will help fight youth unemployment. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosi Mavimbela with Smuva Shongwe, Parliament.
Babane Alliance Church Reverend Johannes Mazibugo, during the swearing-in of cabinet ministers, preached that the country would not reach its first world status if there will be a lawlessness state, so the incoming government has to be excellent.
Preaching during the ceremony, Reverend Johannes Mazibugo says excellence belongs to God. He adds that Emaswati hopes to see change in attitude on how government conducts business. He adds that excellence is demanded everywhere. On the other hand, Bishop Zakaria Mtetwa has prayed for a cabinet that will lead with wisdom.
Siyaqala kubona a different spirit kuma ministries. Siyaqala kubona umehluko. Mhlambe nemithetho kuyahamba ishintshe irevisewe lala phakhona lomnyaka udula khona ukwadi kumfaka liswati ngendlela lefanele athi uyekela ngoba labanye bathi oh when fikile nje 5 years after 5 years uyahamba. No, excellency pleases God and the people.
Wena moya weqiniso moya lengehluleki litiko ngalinye siyathandaza nika indvuna ngayinye uNkulunkulu wezulu umnika ihlakanipho wayinika inkosi yasemva Solomoni waswa amnika ihlakanipho Nkosi wakhona ukuthi alibambe live leka Israel ngehlonipho lelihle walihola baphe iwisdom Nkosi lidonge litiko ingqondo tabo imicabango yabo ibe inspired by the power of the Holy Ghost. I pray, Lord, tonight, today, that your holy hand may be upon them, one by one, Nkosi. Bangete basanganiswa, tinkulumo deliver, ngegama likaJesu.
Secretary to Cabinet Victor Ngumalo says after the prayer, the ministers were now excellent. He hopes that even the principal secretaries in the different ministries will be excellent. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, with Vubinkosi Nzinisa Mbabane.
The Army Commander Mashigilisane Fagutse says the country has made great strides in preventing fatalities due to HIV and AIDS. Fagutse says in light of these efforts, Eswatini should continue using all the preventative measures that have been put in place to avoid HIV new infections. Fagutse was speaking during the World AIDS Day commemoration held in Zombotse.
The commemoration event started with a tour where the Army commander and partners were shown around the services that the military police hospital provides. The Army commander, Mashigilisane Fagutse, says they offer other services such as screening different cancers.
Every community should lead in ending AIDS. We are saying UETF should lead in ending AIDS. We lead and others follow. It is in this day that we take opportunity to thank our partners, PEPFAR US, DOT in particular, and the URC, the implementing partner, in helping us a lot in fighting with this scourge, which used to be a death sentence. We lost soldiers in the past, but it's a privilege and an honor to announce through this pandemic. It's an honor now to say we are no more dying of HIV and AIDS.
The PEPFAR representative, Dr. Tyrone Lepido, commends the impact of the military police hospital in Eswatini.
The role of the community is to ensure that community participation is felt in what services are required, and importantly, to contribute to the quality of care that is provided. To facilitate that, minutes are kept and there are suggestion boxes available for confidential feedback and suggestions that people might not feel free to openly express.
Pikeleli Dlamini, the Nature's Programs Manager, says that they are encouraged to see EUDF officers taking lead in the fight against HIV and AIDS. Dlamini says they're all open to working with different organizations in the fight against HIV. Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni Smuvashongwe, Zombotse.
The Ministry of Health, in collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture, empowered Eswatini at the Mbabane bus rank on the importance of eating balanced meals through indigenous meals.
Where at the Mbabane bus rank had an opportunity to do food testing of indigenous vegetables through the campaign facilitated by the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Agriculture. Speaking during the campaign, the Director for Agriculture, Nelson Mavuso, says the ministry encourages Eswatini to grow indigenous vegetables and fruits.
Sithi silitiko uma sihlanganisile sihlangene singasida sive sethu siphile emalanga lamanengi lokunengi kwethu kubangwa.
We are here to sensitize the nation on the importance of eating healthy. As a Minister of Agriculture, we are pushing that people should eat indigenous fruits and vegetables. We have seen that most people live unhealthy lifestyle where they don't get to exercise.
Vusi Shabango, representing the Ministry of Health under the NDC's department, encourages Eswatini to avoid overcooking food.
Everything that you cook in large quantities, you are bound to dish it in large portion. And anything that you cook in minimum portion, you definitely dish it out in a small portion. So if you cook porridge in large pots, you will have larger portion in your plate, which is unhealthy.
The Ministry of Agriculture launched a Sidle Kwethu campaign, which seeks to encourage Eswatini to grow vegetables, backyard gardens, which will foster a culture of eating vegetables to avoid non-communicable diseases. Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni, Fortune Dlangamandla, Mbabane.
The Ministry of Health, Emergency Preparedness and Response, commonly known as 977, is set to conduct a national stimulation exercise on preparedness and response to emergencies of public concern. This is according to EPR National Office Mduduzi Logotfago, who said this close to reality disaster exercise will be carried out in a secret location to check if Eswatini response team is ready for any emergencies that may occur.
COVID-19 outbreak in the year 2019 tested the world's ability to respond to emergencies. Most countries in the world struggled to curb the spread of the virus. In preparedness for any pandemic or emergencies that may occur in the future, the Minister of Health, Emergency Preparedness and Response Unit will stage a surprise pandemic to see if the country's emergencies units are ready to respond.
We just want to test the country or the sector capacity to respond to an emergency event. We also want to mobilize resources that may be deemed necessary for the response. When we are testing ourselves, we shall see gaps. If there shall be gaps, then that is going to assist us to mobilize resources as necessary. It is also going to be a media to expose our health professionals to such events. We want our people to be ready on the mind and also in the body to face any form of a health disaster, should it come in any time and in any direction. We also want to give ourselves the opportunity to review our plans. We are currently having response plans in different levels. So we want to test whether we are going to be able to execute those plans should the event comes.
The Minister of Health Promotion Officer Stumol Kele says this exercise will help in the event the predicted El Nino hits the country. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, Babane.
The Eswatini Diabetes Association's founder, Kusile Mavuso, says complications in cases of people diagnosed with diabetes can be prevented or delayed through taking the right treatment. Mavuso says the Maswati are encouraged to adopt a healthy lifestyle, which is essential for reducing the risk of diabetes. Mavuso was speaking in Manzini on Tuesday.
The Kingdom of Eswatini joined the world in commemorating the World Diabetes Day that is celebrated on the 14th of November, which is aimed at providing an opportunity for Maswati to learn about diabetes as a global public health issue. The Eswatini Diabetes Association founder Kusile Mavuso says adhering to the right preventative measures and taking the right treatment can minimize complications.
Le timu nekhuthata balingani bami lesiphila nalabo shukela kuthi kumqoka kuwathatha imithi lefanele ngendlela lefanele ukuze zivikele kungena kuma complications.
When people receive the proper treatment, it reduces the risk of complications. We encourage Maswati to make sure that when they feel signs or symptoms of diabetes, they should visit health facilities. There is absolutely no reason to be reluctant or scared about this, whether you are young or old. The best way to take care of yourself is to know exactly what you are dealing with.
The theme for the World Diabetes Day 2023 is Access to Diabetes Care. Globally, around 422 million people have diabetes and 1.5 million deaths are directly attributed to diabetes every year. Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni, Smuva Shongwe, Manzini.
And in our sports news, the appointment of Bongani Nzima as the new Minister for Sports for the next 5 years has been well received, and different sports bodies in the country have expressed their gratitude to His Majesty King Mswati III for Nzima's appointment, and they have great expectations that Nzima will improve sports in the country in the next 5 years.
We begin our sports roundup with the appointment of the new Sports Minister Bongani Nzima of Sandleni constituency. Top three sports bodies being Eswatini Sports and Recreation Council, Eswatini Football Association, and Eswatini Olympic Commonwealth Games Association have all expressed their excitement following the minister's appointment on Monday evening.
Sports fraternity selive leMaswati siyade ukuthi kakhulu isports bill nje lesematheni bantu isports bill ke sonke vele sikhathe sona ngemehlo labofu siyathemba babenzima utawuphusha aphushe achubeke la kugcine khona babebulunga
ye facility njengoba usho indzaba mlonyeni stadium sikhuluma nje kule ligi likhethelo liyadlala nelikhethelo laseLibya liyadlalela ngaphandle le kungaba into lenhle lokuthi imidlalo lenjengale igcine idlalile lapha ekhaya kude namaswati onke alithole lithuba lokuyobukela likhethelo lelive lidlala sihlangu semnikati njengoba likhethelo leli lisuke limele wona emaswati siyethemba lokuthi titaba khona indlela ekuthenini kugcine kwendekile lokho sigcine sinaso noma sikhona leso stadium leso lesitawugcine sibambile lena midlalo lena sengaba nje kwethemba nje kakhulu ukuthi naye minister sangena ehhovisi naye wonke uhulumende indzaba vele leseyikhulunyiswa cishe live lonke siyethemba lokuthi kutawugcine ibe khona impumelelo sigcine nathi sesikhona kubambela imidlalo lenjena lapha ekhaya.
Sithanda ke kumbongela yena minister lomusha siphindze sijabule ke nalokuthi i-experience lanayo iyakhombisa lokuthi passion yakhe isetindzabeni tebantu labasha ikakhulu kanye nato temidlalo.
And moving on to international news, Spanish tennis star Carlos Alcaraz is out of ATP finals following his defeat against German star Alexander Zverev. British female tennis player, on the other hand, will miss the exhibition in Macau in China next month as she's still nursing a hand injury. And lastly, British football community continue to mourn the death of England and Manchester United legend Sir Bobby Charlton, who died at the age of 86, having lifted the 1966 FIFA World Cup alongside Ballon d'Or the same year and the 1968 European Cup with Manchester United. Sir Bobby Charlton memorial services was held on Monday, but on Tuesday, different supporters and club officials within Manchester United continued to show their support. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabiso Msonera, Mbabane.
Let's go for a net break and we'll return and discuss the Luyengo Youth Business and Development Summit. We'll be right back.
What do you think the best part of traveling is? Is it the food, or is it the conversation, or is it the sights and sound? If you're ready to explore, we are ready to show you the best way how. We'll give you access to the best luxury getaway sites in the Kingdom of Eswatini, and of course show you vacation sites that suit your budget, because you do not need a lot of money to actually have a great time. Join us on the next adventure on Buhle Bethu, only on Eswatini TV.
Busisika mzalwane ukubukela umculo wemadodana ahlabelela adumisa uNkulunkulu. Amadodana nendumiso luhlelo lwakhele wena mbukeli ude utawuvuseleleka emoyeni uphindze udumise nelidodana sibabade longabonwa ngemehlo. Phakama Nkosi yemazulu luthumbo lwakho. Amadodana nendumiso.
23 minutes after 7, let's welcome Mthunzi Ndlovu, who is the coordinator for the Luyengo Youth Business and Development Summit. Mthunzi, welcome to the program. You understand that this is the second edition yale Luyengo Youth Business and Development Summit. Nje kuyichaza kabandi for umbukeli ekhaya. Inchaza ngoba ngithe nangibuka le document lengitfolele chaza kabandi ngayo. Ngabona kungathi gcila kakhulu kunatinvo letikhulunyiswe esibayeni ekuthenini abantu labasha abasukume baqhutele nalabanye abantu labasha ekutheni kusungulwe emabhizinisi, particularly kubukwe emabhizinisi la sebenzisa imisebenzi yetandla, emabhizinisi la etekulima. Kusichazela kabandi nje ngayo le development summit yabantu labasha.
Yes, siyabonga kakhulu uSifiso. Lokumcoka kule business development summit ngiloko ukuthi sifake wonke umuntu because esikhathini lesiningi we talk of agriculture kuphela, lana sikhulumisa indzaba yemakhono ku rehabilitator to review indzaba yokuthi bamva bangene ku vocational vocational skills, sibuka indzaba yokuthi ibusiness esikhathini lesiningi siyayithi go for business bese kuba dele enough training and empowerment kuba mflabasha. Naloko ukuthi ke sengiyafuna ngene ebusinessini, where do I go, where do I start? So mangitshela ngebusiness plan lomnyaka yathi nalokuthi indiwa kanjani, so concept ngolokuba vilaphi sakho. So kule summit sithi let's bring bamflabasha. We are expecting 200 people, young people, to come and participate. So stabe sikhulumisa tona tonke letinzabe ma funders atabe akhona people who will fund stabe sina economists. So sibuka nje ukuthi young people asingenene emabhizinisini, let's create job. We are not saying we are making lipfuba lekwenta emabhizinisi, but we are saying let's go and create jobs.
Okay, ngiyayiva indzaba yokuthi nifuna ku-addressa lama gaps la bese sekaba khona bantu labasha basesegcugcutela ukuthi abangene ebhizinisini. I do appreciate ukuthi you'll have an economist and you'll have funders, but how do you really seek to address letindzaba lotichaza kodwa ukuthi bantu labasha batkhanza bete kahle kahle le knowledge yekwakha labo ma business plan nokuthi nawuqala ibhizinisi vele uhambaphi? Will you also have other people and invite to address those issues?
Yes, sistabe sinabo kakhulu nje. We want to thank Instacash, director wakhona lo tshengisa interest ngokuthi he doesn't want just to come to summit, but he want to partner with the community.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Yes, with the community in terms of kusita bamflabasha kukwenda emabhizinisi nekuba mentorisha into business.
Okay, that's the mentorship part lebengine interest kuyo kakhulu Mthunzi. Let's talk about the attendance of CVES Aseliyengo, because I understand this is a community program and iqale emnyakeni lo phelile. Ngabe le uptake, if you look at last year and people that have confirmed attendance this year, is it growing?
Yes, we want to say we are happy kakhulu lendlela labasibambisa ngayo, because last year we had a very good turnout because Bamvu we closed registration on the 12th of November. So of October. Then kwakhanzakala ukuthi people they are pushing until the last day. So from 200 we ended up having 250 people coming for the summit. Then this year, even this year, numbers are growing. And look, interesting kakhulu is that even people from outside the community, nationally, around Babane, Matsapa, Manzini, they'll be in the summit. They've shown interest to come and participate.
And what are the dates for the summit?
The date is on the 16th and 17th. That's
which
Friday.
Is tomorrow and Friday.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about Leniba. The skills really they're not inculcated. I did say good artisanal skills, but there's also a big gap lapha kangwane enzabeni teteklima. And now khuluma ngaliyengo ingqondo yemuntu nje ivele ichune enzabeni teteklima. Ngabe tona te address wayini ngitiphi vele nje tinhlango slati address akho?
Yes, I think lokunye lokwendekako because the summit it's born from the development committee. Yaseliyengweni ngokuthi isenda kanjani. We are planning kwakha i-farmer sage whereby balimi baseliyengo we've got a problem yokuthi we are doing subsistence farming whereby you go and sell to buy lunch, to buy kudla kwasekhaya, to buy my units agesi. But now we are saying let's make it a business, have your records, so that noma uyakufanda usitakala. So bakuyalinywa, but we want to upper the scale yekulima ngokuthi people must be commercial. there for me.
Simakhulu Mthunzi isikhathi sakho lomhla ekseni. Mthunzi Ndlovu, coordinator of the Luyengo Youth Business and Development Summit, set to kick off tomorrow and Friday. It's a 2-day event. Youth ke yaseluyengo nasemaqiniselweni yakhuthazwa ukuthi iye iyawuthola lwati ngekundlondlobalisa emabhizinisi nekwaqala empeleni. Siyavala ukuthi nabo Regional Development Fund batabe bakhona as well as other funders asibahla lethi market tester buya sichubene hlelo.
The Central Bank of Eswatini Board of Directors, Management and Staff congratulate His Majesty King Mswati III for the successful conclusion of Sibaya and the appointment of His Excellency Mr. Russell Miso Dlamini as the Honorable Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Eswatini. May the God of all wisdom grant the Prime Minister all the strength and grace he needs to execute this assignment with excellence. Bye, when our pagati.
You about my crush. Ngenzane inhlitiyo yami embi kwakho njengeDance.
Ngondlo isiswayo.
It is 3 in the afternoon. We are back in the living.
For men are so kind towards creation more than they even were to their own creator.
I am the greatest of this generation. They'll be calling me the girl who made poetry look cool, yo. Cool.
31 minutes after 7, we will recap the swearing in of cabinet ministers that swore in as elangenge laitolo sifuna kuqala ngeliphini landvunankulu Kusile Dladla, who is the topic of conversation in many social media platforms for being the second female deputy prime minister in the history of Eswatini, first female DPM for Eswatini after 15 years. I guess bukeleke nakafunga elangeni laitolo.
Nami ngisengaka ngafungisa deputy prime minister longimake solo ngasisalo office. So siyakubongela. Shano nawa emagama lalandzelako emva kwami. Mine Thulisile Dladla.
Mine Thulisile Dladla.
Ngiyafunga.
Ngiyafunga.
Ngithi ngitawethembeka.
Ngithi ngitawethembeka.
Ngemoya wami wonke.
Ngemoya wami wonke.
Kuthi ngitayisebentela.
Kuthi ngitayisebentela.
Ngeliciniso.
Ngeliciniso.
Nangekwethembeka.
Nangekwethembeka.
Inkosi Mswati wesithathu.
Inkosi Mswati wesithathu.
Nalabo ayobusa emva kwayo.
Nalabo ayobusa emva kwayo.
Kulesikhundla sekuba liphini landvunankulu.
Kulesikhundla sekuba liphini landvunankulu.
Inkosi ngiside.
Inkosi ngiside.
All right, we will look at Polile Shakantu, who is the Minister of Foreign Affairs, being sworn in. She was also a cabinet minister in the 11th Parliament in the Ministry of Justice, I believe. Let's take a look at Polile Shakantu being sworn in.
Ngicela usho nawa emagama lalandzelako emva kwami. Mine Polile Shakantu.
Mine Polile Shakantu.
Ngiyafunga.
Ngiyafunga.
Ngithi ngitawethembeka.
Ngithi ngitawethembeka.
Ngemoya wami wonke.
Ngemoya wami wonke.
Kuthi ngitayisebentela.
Kuthi ngitayisebentela.
Ngeliciniso.
Ngeliciniso.
Nangekwethembeka.
Nangekwethembeka.
Inkosi Mswati wesithathu.
Inkosi Mswati wesithathu.
Tindlalifatayo.
Tindlalifatayo.
Nalaba ayobusa emva kwayo.
Nalaba ayobusa emva kwayo.
Kulesikhundla sekuba indvuna yembuso yelitiko le-Foreign Affairs.
Kulesikhundla sekuba indvuna yembuso etiko le-Foreign Affairs.
Inkosi ngiside.
Inkosi ingiside.
Polile Shakantu, who is the now Minister for Foreign Affairs. She went up there to be sworn in with her spouse, Mr. Michelo Shakantu, as there was an allowance for all the ministers to go up there and be sworn in with their spouses if they are around. We will be seeing other cabinet ministers being sworn in with their spouses. We want to look at Mr. Neil Reichenberg, who is the Minister for Finance for the second time in a row, as he was the Minister for Finance in the 11th Parliament, also being sworn in. Here's a recap.
Say the following after me. I, Neil Reichenberg,
I, Neil Reichenberg,
do swear
that
I will well and truly serve the King Eswatini III,
that I will well and truly serve King Mswati III,
his heirs and successors, in the office of Minister of Finance.
in the office of the Minister of Finance.
So help me God.
So help me God.
We return and we want to look at Prince Simelane being sworn in to the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, another one that is making rounds on social media, as Mr. Prince Simelane had a moment there when he was being sworn in that made a lot of people laugh a little bit. Let's take a look.
Shano nawa emagama lalandzelako emva kwami. Mine Simelane.
Mine sitsinzi sembutho Simelane.
Ngiyafunga.
Ngithi
ngitawetsembeka. Ngemoya wami wonke. Futhi kuthi ngitayisebentela ngeliciniso. Nangekwetsembeka. Inkosi Mswati wesithathu. Tindlalifatayo. Nalaba yobusa emva kwayo. Kulesikhundla sekuba indvuna yembuso yelitiko le-Justice and Constitutional Affairs.
Kulendvuna lembuso yalelitiko la Justice and Constitutional Affairs.
Aphindze ngosi ngibese ngiyagijima.
Ungabotsha.
Asiphindze mdlali. Mine Simelane.
Mine sitsinzi sembutho Simelane.
Ngiyafunga.
Ngithi
ngitawetsembeka. Ngemoya wami wonke. Kuthi ngitayisebentela. Ngeliciniso nangekwetsembeka. Inkosi Mswati wesithathu. Tindlalifatayo. Nalaba yobusa emva kwayo. Kulesikhundla sekuba indvuna. Yembuso yelitiko le-Justice and Constitutional Affairs.
Justice and Constitutional Affairs.
Inkosi ngiside.
Inkosi zingiside.
There was Prince Simelane being sworn into the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. We want to look at Princess Lindiwe now being sworn in for the second time in a row into the Ministry of Home Affairs. Let's take a look.
Shano namagama lalandzelako emva kwami. Mine Lindiwe. Ngiyafunga. Ngithi ngitawetsembeka. Ngemoya wami wonke. Kuthi ngitayisebentela. Ngeliciniso. Nangekwetsembeka. Inkosi Mswati wesithathu. Tindlalifatayo. Nalaba yobusa emva kwayo. Kulesikhundla sekuba indvuna yembuso yelitiko le-Home Affairs. Inkosi ngiside.
Well, that was Home Affairs Minister Princess Lindiwe swearing in yesterday, accompanied by, or rather administrated by Attorney General Sifiso Mafelenkosini Kumalo, who was really administering the whole swearing in process yesterday. We want to look at Nkwene, Member of Parliament, being sworn in as the Minister for Tinkundla and Development.
Mina esikhumbuzo mabuye Nkwene eDlamini.
Ngiyafunga. Ngithi ngidawethembeka.
Ngithi ngidawethembeka.
Ngemoya wami wonke.
Ngemoya wami wonke.
Futhi ngidayisebentela.
Futhi ngidayisebentela.
Ngeliqiniso.
Ngeliciniso.
Nangekwethembeka.
Nangekwethembeka.
Inkosi Mswati wesithathu.
Inkosi Mswati wesithathu.
Tindlala ifatayo.
Tindlala ifatayo.
Nalaba yobusa emva kwayo.
Nalaba yobusa emva kwayo.
Kulesikhundla sekuba indvuna yembuso yelitiko letinkundla administration.
Kulesikhundla sekuba indvuna yembuso etiko letinkhundla in administration.
Inkosi ngiside.
Inkosi ngiside.
That was Nkwene, Member of Parliament, who is now the Minister for Tinkhundla Administration and Development. We want to look at Mangoba Khumalo, who is the Minister of Commerce, Industry and Trade, who has also spoken eloquently that he is ready to hit the ground running with some of the pipeline projects that he was already implementing in the last Parliament as the Minister for Commerce, Industry and Trade. Let's hear him getting sworn in.
Please say the following after me. I, Mangoba Khumalo,
I, Mangoba Khumalo,
do swear
that
I will well and truly serve King Mswati III,
King Mswati III,
his heirs and successors, in the office of Minister of Commerce.
Industry and Trade.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right, we move on now. Health Ministry has a new minister in Mduduzi Matsebula. Let's look at Mr. Matsebula getting sworn in.
Shano nawa emagama lalandzelako emva kwami. Mina Mduduzi Matsebula.
Mina Mduduzi Mlondi Matsebula.
Ngiyafunga. Ngithi
ngitakwethembeka.
Ngemoya wami wonke. Kuthi ngidayisebentela. Ngeliciniso nangekwethembeka. Inkosi Mswati wesithathu. Tindlala ifatayo. Nalaba yobusa emva kwayo. Kulesikhundla sekuba indvuna yembuso yelitiko laka health. Inkosi ngiside.
Bekongumduduzi Matsebula ke loyo lo sign vuna yetiko letemphilo. Sifuna kuchubekela embili sibuke Mandla Chauke lo indvuna yetiko letekulima.
Shano nawa emagama lalandzelako emva kwami. Mine Mandla Chauke.
Mine Mandla khala ngelitiyela Chauka.
Ngiyafunga.
Ngithi ngidawethembeka.
Ngemoya wami wonke. Kuthi
ngidayisebentela.
Ngeliciniso. Nangekwethembeka. Inkosi Mswati wesithathu. Tindlala ifatayo. Nalaba yobusa emva kwayo. Kulesikhundla sekuba indvuna yembuso yelitiko le-agriculture. Inkosi ngiside.
Lo ke bekuyindvuna yelitiko letekulima Mandla Chauke ithatha sifungo elangeni la itolo. Sifuna kubuka make Jane Mkhonda lo sayindvuna yelitiko letekuvakasha netindzaba temvelo naye uma afunga elangeni la itolo.
Shano na amagama lalandzelako emva kwami. Mine Jane Mkhonda Simelane. Ngiyafunga. Ngithi ngidawethembeka. Ngemoya wami wonke. Kuthi ngidayisebentela. Ngeliciniso nangekwethembeka. Inkosi Mswati wesithathu. Tindlala ifatayo. Nalaba yobusa emva kwayo. Kulesikhundla sekuba indvuna yembuso yelitiko le-tourism and environment.
kulesikhundla sekuba indvuna yembuso kuleli tiko le tourism and environment.
Inkosi ngiside.
Inkosi ingiside.
Asandlulele sibuke Prince Lo Ngokhela lo indvuna yelitiko letemcebo waphansi nemandla umathatha sifungo.
Mine Lo Ngokhela.
Bajajwa njengezinkomo.
Ngiyafunga.
Ngiyafunga.
Ngithi ngitawethembeka.
Ngithi ngitawethembeka.
Ngemoya wami wonke.
Ngemoya wami wonke.
Kuthi ngitayisebentela ngeliqiniso.
Kuthi ngitayisebentela ngeliqiniso.
Nangekwethembeka.
Nangekwethembeka.
Inkosi Mswati wesithathu.
Inkosi Mswati wesithathu.
Tindlela ifatayo.
Tindlela ifatayo.
Nalaba yobusa emva kwayo.
Nalaba yobusa emva kwayo.
Kulesikhundla sekuba indvuna.
Kulesikhundla sekuba indvuna.
Yembuso elitiko le natural resources and energy.
Yembuso kulitiko le natural resources and energy.
Inkosi ngiside.
Inkosi ingiside.
Sichubeka sibuka Chief Ndlaluhlaza Ndwandwe lo indvuna yelitiko letekutfutsa Public Works and Transport umathatha sifungela ke la idolo.
Shano nawa emagama alandzelako emva kwami. Mine Ndlaluhlaza.
Mina Ndlaluhlaza.
Ngiyafunga.
Ngiyafunga.
Ngithi ngitawethembeka.
Ngithi ngitawethembeka.
Ngemoya wami wonke.
Ngemoya wami wonke.
Kuthi ngitayisebentela.
Kuthi ngitayisebentela.
Ngeliqiniso.
Ngeliqiniso.
Nangekwethembeka.
Nangekwethembeka.
Inkosi Mswati wesithathu.
Inkosi Mswati wesithathu.
Tindlela ifatayo.
Tindlela ifatayo.
Nalaba yobusa emva kwayo.
Nalaba yobusa emva kwayo.
Kulesikhundla sekuba indvuna yembuso yelitiko le Public Works and Transport.
Kulesikhundla sekuba indvuna yembuso etiko letemsebenti lemkhulu nekutfutsa.
Inkosi ngiside.
Inkosi ngiside.
Bongosi asitubekele empilo sibuke Apollo Maphalala lo indvuna yelitiko laka Housing and Urban Development umathatha sifungo.
Shano nawa emagama landzelako emva kwami. Mine Apollo Maphalala.
Mine Apollo Maphalala.
Ngiyafunga.
Ngiyafunga.
Ngithi ngitawethembeka.
Ngithi ngitawethembeka.
Ngemoya wami wonke.
Ngemoya wami wonke.
Kuthi ngitayisebentela.
Kuthi ngitayisebentela.
Ngeliqiniso.
Ngeliqiniso.
Nangekwethembeka.
Nangekwethembeka.
Inkosi Mswati wesithathu.
Inkosi Mswati wesithathu.
Tindlela ifatayo.
Tindlela ifatayo.
Nalaba yobusa emva kwayo.
Nalaba yobusa emva kwayo.
Kulesikhundla sekuba yemvuna yembuso yelitiko laka Housing and Urban Development.
Kulesikhundla sekuba indvuna yembuso etiko letindlu nekutfutfuka kwemadolobha.
Inkosi ngiside.
Inkosi ngiside.
Indvuna yelitiko letekuhlela umnotfo nentfutfuko Dr. Thambo Gina bekangiyoke indvuna yalo litiko letekuhlela umnotfo nentfutfuko Parliamente lesibuya kuyo el-11 uthathile ke naye sifungo elangeni la idola ke simuve.
Shano nawa emagama alandzelako emva kwami. Mine Thambo Gina.
Mina Eliezer Thambo Gina.
Ngiyafunga.
Ngiyafunga.
Ngithi ngitawethembeka.
Ngithi ngitawethembeka.
Ngemoya wami wonke.
Ngemoya wami wonke.
Kuthi ngitayisebentela.
Kuthi ngitayisebentela.
Ngeliqiniso.
Ngeliqiniso.
Nangekwethembeka.
Nangekwethembeka.
Inkosi Mswati wesithathu. Tindlela ifatayo. Nalaba yobusa emva kwayo.
Nalaba yobusa emva kwayo.
Kulesikhundla sekuba indvuna yembuso yelitiko le economic planning and the economic planning.
Kulesikhundla sekuba indvuna yembuso yelitiko lo economic planning and development.
Inkosi ngiside.
Inkosi ngiside.
Indvuna yaga public service Mabulala Maseko nanayo ifungile elangeni la idola kasife.
Mine Mabulala Maseko.
Mina Mabulala Maseko.
Ngiyafunga.
Ngiyafunga.
Ngithi ngiyawethembeka.
Ngithi ngiyakwethembeka.
Ngemoya wami wonke.
Ngemoya wami wonke.
Kuthi ngiyayisebentela.
Uthi ngiyayisebentela.
Ngeliqiniso.
Ngeqiniso.
Naye kwethembeka.
Nawe kwethembeka.
Inkosi Mswati wesithathu.
Inkosi Mswati wesithathu.
Tindlalifa tayo.
Tindlalifa tayo.
Nalaba ubusa emva kwayo.
Ubusa emva kwayo.
Kulesikhundla sekuba indvuna yembuso elitiko le public service.
Kulesikhundla sekuba indvuna yembuso kulelitiko letisebenta uhulumende.
Inkosi ngiside.
Inkosi ngiside.
Minister of Sports, Culture and Youth Affairs Bongani Nzima also swore in elangeni la idola akesimuve.
Shano nawa emagama landzelako emva kwami. Mine Bongani Nzima.
Mine Bongani Nzima.
Ngiyafunga.
Ngiyafunga.
Ngithi ngiyawethembeka.
Ngithi ngiyawethembeka.
Ngemoya wami wonke.
Ngemoya wami wonke.
Kuthi ngiyayisebentela.
Kuthi ngiyayisebentela.
Ngeliqiniso.
Ngeqiniso.
Naye kwethembeka.
Nangekwethembeka.
Inkosi Mswati wesithathu.
Inkosi Mswati wesithathu.
Tindlalifa tayo.
Tindlalifa tayo.
Nalabayobusa emva kwayo.
Bayobusa emva kwayo.
Kulesikhundla sekuba indvuna.
Kulesikhundla sekuba indvuna.
Yembuso elitiko le Sports, Culture and Youth Affairs.
Yembuso kulelitiko le Sports, Culture and Youth Affairs.
Inkosi ngiside.
Inkosi ngiside.
Masike nendvuna yaga Labor and Social Security Phila Buthelezi ifungile langeni la idola kasife.
Shano nawa emagama lalandzelako emva kwami. Mine Phila Buthelezi. Ngiyafunga. Ngithi ngiyawethembeka. Ngemoya wami wonke. Kuthi ngiyayisebentela. Ngeliqiniso nangekwethembeka. Inkosi Mswati wesithathu. Tindlalifa tayo. Nalaba ubusa emva kwayo. Kulesikhundla sekuba yemvuna yembuso yelitiko le Labour and Social Security. Inkosi ngiside.
Labor and Social Security Minister Phila Buthelezi uma athatha sifungo elangeni la idolo sivile kene ukuthi bekufuna ibe khona indvuna yaka ICT Savannah Mazia lecolisile ke ukuthi angeke ikhona kuba khona kodwa itawubuya ifunge bashilo ke idate malake nje latako nayo utawufunga masinyana sichubekele embili sibuke Owen Nxumalo nana ke loyi minister yaka education usithethe sifunge elangeni la idola ke simuve.
Shano nawa emagama landzelako emva kwami. Mine Owen Nxumalo.
Mine Owen sihlalo sembutho Nxumalo.
Ngiyafunga.
Ngiyafunga.
Ngithi ngiyawethembeka.
Ngithi ngiyawethembeka.
Ngemoya wami wonke.
Ngemoya wami wonke.
Kuthi ngiyayisebentela.
Kuthi ngiyayisebentela.
Ngeliqiniso.
Ngeliciniso.
Nangekwethembeka. Nangekwethembeka. Inkosi Mswati wesithathu.
Inkosi Mswati wesithathu.
Tindlalifa tayo.
Tindlalifa tayo.
Nalaba ubusa emva kwayo.
Nabayobusa emva kwayo.
Kulesikhundla sekuba indvuna yembuso elitiko le Education and Training.
Kulesikhundla sekuba indvuna yembuso elitiko la Education and Training.
Inkosi ngiside.
Inkosi ngiside.
Tivuna tembuso setphelelekele tifungile elangeni la idolo tilishumi nesiphohlongo 18 cabinet ministers that were sworn in yesterday. Lakubhekeke ukuthi salovele basuka emagonso bathi nkwe baye kona kuyaqhuba umkhumbi weParliamente eli12 umsebenzi uyaqala elangeni layitolo nje bo PS nanabo bebakhona bomabhalane labakhulu bawo onke ematiko kulomsebenzi uma bafunga baceliwe ke nawuphela umsebenzi ukuthi batawuhamba nato tindvuna tembuso bahambe bayothi khombisa emahhovisi ato kukhomba kona nje ukuthi umsebenzi sotawuvele uqale ube setulu agenda ke yavele yabekwa nasesibayeni silo semhlaba sabaniketa iagenda kutheni kunetindzaba lokufuna attendwe urgently etfaka ekhatsi indzaba yekubatu kwemsebenzi ngalokuphelele indzaba inkohlakalo icorruption naletinye nje tindzaba lokufuna ukuthi tisentshetwe lokubheke ukuthi ke batisebente njengoba sebaqalile umsebenzi emahhovisini abo ngekwehlukana sibahlole emakethe sitawubuya sivala lihlelo.
Hello everyone and welcome to the show. You know the vibes, it's the beat down. The time is 8 p.m. It's time for you to relax, sit back, relax, and enjoy the music videos that I got for you.
Moving no direction, like it's a calling. When you're live in the middle of nowhere, shake the ground and burn the air. So yeah, you don't have to hold back for anything or anyone. Just on this.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds, full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, to feel the rush of life overwhelm you, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. You ask, and we give you the royal experience. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. There are but a few places on earth so special, so unique, and so spectacular, where it becomes the rite of passage for the ambitious travelers, the courageous souls, to all have the one and only royal experience. That day when you look deep into your heart and leap into an ancient world so very different from your own, where magic, beauty, and love are shared forever, then you will have a royal experience. There is just one place on earth where the people make you feel a part of their kingdom, where you just might volunteer to awaken spirits, enrich minds, and work alongside communities to build, motivate, and inspire. This is truly the royal experience. When you dream of a different world, beyond the ordinary, beyond time, discover just how far you go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
Ungosi sifike emaphethelweni lehlelo lwethu lwalomuhla sithatha lithuba siyakuvalelisa sithi ube nelusuku loluhle.